Welcome back to Exquisitely Aligned. I'm Gina Meyer-Vincent, your host and your personal soul shifter, here to help you define and design the future you desire and deserve, the one where essentially you become exactly what the world is missing. And today my guest has done exactly that. She is a second-time guest, and you can find her. I had to look it up on Apple episode 78. I'll repeat that later again. But I welcome Melissa Kellogg Lueck. Melissa is an entrepreneurial pioneer, creating her business online in 2005. I know that sounds like yesterday, but then so long ago, right? Before online coaching businesses were cool, or for most people known what that is, right? Her style of creating simple, joyful, and profitable businesses and her principles for what she teaches now were born out of the tragedy living through 9/11 in the New York City area. She's a marketing and business coach and teaches women how to create financial freedom through entrepreneurship. Melissa believes that any woman is capable of creating financial freedom through entrepreneurship. Her mission is to surround female entrepreneurs with community, teaching, coaching, and services they need to create the business and impact they desire. She's a podcaster, speaker, coach, women's ice hockey player, which we discussed last episode, again, episode 78, mom, wife, and lives in Colorado. Welcome, Melissa. It is so much fun to be back with you again. We have so many things that overlap that I truly get excited. As you know, I get goosebumps when we start talking.
I know. I'm so excited to be back. It's so great to see you again. I feel like we're old pals.
Yes, definitely. If only you lived next door, I'd bring over a hot cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and we could sip together. So I had a couple of things written down, but just before we turned on the record button or hit play, you had mentioned something that truly excited me, and it was the thought of being seen. And this is something I love to give a voice to because I think it's important on so many levels. It's this ripple effect. So I'm just going to let you dive in and start with maybe the way you had just mentioned. I think I asked you, is there something you're seeing repetitively or a pattern in?
Yeah, so I am currently teaching a class for my community called Marketing Essentialism. And as I was preparing for that, I was in a lot of different networking meetings and things and talking to a lot of women just out and about and really asking them, like, what is your greatest challenge when it comes to marketing? You know, what could I teach or discuss in this class that would be super valuable? And what kept coming up, it wasn't like, you know, how to post on TikTok or how many reels or, you know, anything like that. It's like, we know all of those, you know, tactics, marketing tactical things. But what I started to hear over and over women say is, I'm just afraid to get out there. I'm afraid of being seen, that fear of being judged and criticized. Yeah. And so I know in my own journey, that was a huge barrier for me as well. And so as I mentioned that to you, you just really lit up. So
I did, because it is definitely difficult, right? We have this beautiful thing that I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I mean, it was great when my husband was ill 14 and a half years ago. It was an easy, simple way for me to get a message out to thousands of people very quickly. Hey, this is what's going on today, or we need prayers, or our prayers were answered with XYZ. And, you know, we have these benefits, but then also we have it's like you're putting your words out there. I mean, some people are putting pictures, right? I'm a very visual person, so pictures are definitely part of my brand and part of my world. But the thing is, you're actually putting out your voice and being seen and heard in a bigger, broader way without a microphone like you and I are using right now, but kind of like a microphone, right? And I find it, I mean, there's so many different facets that I'd love to explore with you, because I think this goes even deeper for the person who doesn't own a business, but is maybe using social media to connect with old friends or make new friends or grow your business or monitor for your children. But the thing is, sometimes people who maybe I say they need to get a hobby, maybe they need to do ice hockey with you, Melissa. They have free time and they can easily bash you with something that is so hurtful. And sometimes those people were people I had never met before, because I was doing Facebook advertising. I had grown my list from 198 people who I knew intimately to 16,000 and change, my email my email list, through using Facebook advertising. This was years ago, before the pandemic, when I started my business. And I have beliefs. I see the world a little differently than most people. That's why I choose to wear my hair and my lipstick different than most people, just to get that point across. And I know that not everybody's going to like what I have to say. Mm-hmm. But some of the messages were rather hurtful. And I'll never forget, we were at Hilton Head on a 4th of July week vacation with the kids. And I was reading a couple comments, and my kids said, "Mom, haters are going to hate, hate, hate." And they just started singing, Taylor Swift. So I can understand where it comes from. I've been on that. Mm-hmm. Luckily with social media, we can delete or hide some of those messages. And oftentimes I find that the people who like what you're saying don't always leave you a message. They're just happy they heard. Like, I had the goosebumps when you said, "Oh, what I'm seeing is," but I want to hear more from you, and then we'll explore all of these things, because it is huge, and being judged is not comfortable. It's not fun. It happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's not even just on social media, but as entrepreneurs, or as any kind of professional woman, or anyone that's even involved in having an opinion about anything. When we go and, stand in a group of, even if we're at a neighborhood party or whatever, and we speak say our opinion, we are opening ourselves up to criticism, right? Yeah. Or if I walk into a networking meeting, a whole room of people that I don't know, it can be very uncomfortable to be seen. But it's such an interesting paradox, because one of our greatest needs as a human is to be seen and be known. Right?
Yes. Connection, right? Connection, conversation, not emojis and acronyms, but true, deep, creating that bond. Exactly. Yeah. It is that's why I said it's like such a huge ripple effect. Keep going. Sorry. I'm so excited, Melissa.
I know. It's such a great conversation. And so, I remember, I was just thinking about this not too long ago, about what I remember from when I really decided to scale my business and become more visible myself. Because it really is a decision. You have to decide. Mm-hmm. And then once you make that decision, it's like time to take action.
Yes.
But oftentimes when we go to take the action, that's where we get tripped up, because the fear, we have this grip of fear of what might happen if we step out and speak our vision to the world, or, say, I have something to offer. Do you want it? It's a very vulnerable position, right?
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about this for myself. And the first time I talked to a coach, my coach at the time, this was years ago, about this fear, she really led me, and this is what I love to do with my clients, and your audience can use this as well, is really, instead of trying to make the fear go away, we're going to walk into the fear.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to just go right as deep into the fear as we can, invite the fear to come and sit down next to you, and let's have a conversation. Like, what are we afraid of? What are we most afraid of? And when I got to the bottom of it, for me, my greatest fear was that, and I'm smiling because when you really go into it, it's often kind of silly.
Right.
It feels real in your body. Right?
Oh, definitely.
So my fear was that my husband would not like what I was saying or doing, and that he would divorce me and take my children.
Mm-hmm.
That's how, and that is obviously what's most important to me, right? So I was very responsive to that fear, and I stayed small for many years in my business.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
And when you really question the reality, I mean, the laws in the United States, your husband can't just take your children without any recourse. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Thankfully, right?
Yes. He wouldn't do that anyway. He's a wonderful man. But it's funny how the fear knows how to keep us in the cave.
Yes. Yeah.
But when we go in and we sit down with the fear and we hear everything she has to say, then we're like, oh, well, that's not going to happen. So it kind of disarms the fear.
Well, and oftentimes, and I agree with you, I wouldn't have described it as eloquently as you. That's why you're here as a guest. But oftentimes I just drill down, asking more and more and more questions, going deeper, like you said, inviting fear to sit beside you and have that conversation. And sometimes what I find for clients is that, like you said, it was not going to happen on so many levels. That's not who your husband is. You know that the truth is he loves you. He loves your kids. He wouldn't just tear up a family over something you've said or, posted or,
I know, right?
What you said into the microphone. And I've also had clients who their fears came from even younger, like from their childhood eyes, their inner child, something that happened at age 13 or whatever. And it was, I'm going to use the word traumatic at that age.
Yeah.
Right. Of not fitting in or whatever the deal was when they were a teen, trying to get the approval of peers, because that's the energy. If you study yoga, chakras, etc., that's the energy of those years, 7 and up. So teens and so forth. And it's always fascinating because they do kind of smile or chuckle or laugh like, wait, hold on, and even people who are planning an event, like, okay, let's think through what could go wrong and let's have a plan B, like even with my kids when they're doing some kind of an event for school or so forth. And then it's like, okay, and what would be the worst thing? Is that even possible, right? Like, like we're going to have a tornado and there are no tornadoes in the area we live ever, like, okay, good. Now we got that out of our head. Let's keep moving forward. But it is a paradox because we do want to feel connected. And I think that these lovely cell phones, mine is here at my desk, we're connected and disconnected all in the same. And then like social media, we can be seen and heard, but sometimes people can construe what we say and make it sound different than what we meant, etc. Take a snippet of something without the context that it was mentioned in. What else did you say that I wanted to, but I loved that you were smiling, that you knew immediately this would never be a reality. And I think he's probably one of your biggest cheerleaders. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's funny because the fear, when we don't go and listen to it,
right,
we just feel the effects of it. Right. And so I think that's what has been really helpful for me, is not expecting to be 100% free of the fear,
Mm-hmm.
but allowing the fear to be there, giving her her say, listening to
Mm-hmm.
what she has to say, addressing any validity, and then moving forward the
Yeah.
way I want to anyway. Right?
Yeah. Well, and I think there is a sense of when we have a healthy amount of fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we are like the animal with their whiskers that, they feel the winds coming or something's changing, whether it be, we've had a couple of earthquakes lately here that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really feel exactly. I just felt the reverb afterwards. It was just an odd feeling like, am I lightheaded? Do I need water? Just like a weird,
Yeah.
I think it's called swarming. But anyway, I think if you have that little bit of healthy fear, then you can be alert, more attentive, more, with the eyes wide open versus somebody who's walking around with the music blasting in their ear pods and crossing a crowded street full of traffic, not paying attention to the crosswalk. So at
Mm-hmm.
least if you have your wits about you, maybe that's the better way to say it. And knowing that, yeah, it can sometimes feel like we're being exposed without our clothing on, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do have to come to that point where we make the decision, right? Like,
Mhm.
yes, I see,
Absolutely.
I'll hold my fear in this hand and I hear what you have to say. But then in this hand is the impact I want to have on the world, right?
Exactly.
And the business I want to build. So I get to choose between the two at any one moment in time.
Mhm.
And so that's really where our power is, right?
Yes. And I think that the biggest thing is the ripple effect when, as you chose to stand in that power and make that decision, and your husband's there supporting you and your kids are cheering you on, etc., all the lives you're impacting, Melissa. And those women's lives, they're impacting their younger,
Mm-hmm.
their children, their siblings, their parents. I think it just causes this ripple effect that you are safe. We do have freedom of speech. You're protected. You can have an opinion. And I think the biggest thing is, like, even with my children, when they were a little younger, it's like, the preteen, early teens, like, you can have an opinion, but we may not agree, and it's okay. You have an opinion, but yours is not going to win right now because you're not old enough. Right. And
Yeah.
I'm willing to listen because I'd love to hear you support whatever the heck they were trying to argue for, and sometimes their theories were just very fascinating. And other times they're like, and they would realize, yeah, I see it's not going to work, and walk away. But I think it's important that we share and speak up and are seen and really, I'm going to say, pave the way for others, decades behind us, but even others who are standing beside us right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so kudos to you for stepping into that, because I know how many lives you've changed, and it's, you make the world a better place, not just for myself, but for my two kids. So thank you. Thank you. So what are you finding beside, judgment? Are you finding it's similar for them about their spouses and their young kids, or do you find there's other things? Because I've had several people say to me, I wonder if I work with you, like if I'm going to get a divorce. I'm like, okay, do you realize I'm not a divorce attorney? I'm not a mediator. I'm like, are you contemplating a divorce? Because everything I've seen you post on social media and everything I know about you is that you're happily married for like 2 decades. No. I said, well, then why do you think? Well, because I've seen other people like start a business and then they divorce their husband and they get wild. And I'm like, okay, how many other people have you seen? Is it like rampant, or who are you hanging out with? And then they realize, oh, that happened a few times, but so it's funny that that's the example you had,
Yeah.
or that's what you felt,
Well, I think as women, we are socialized to go along to get along. So if there comes a point where we decide, I'm no longer going to go along to get along, I want to be my authentic self.
Yeah.
There is some fear in that, right? Of how will that affect everyone around me, all the comfortable places where I now am. And so that's definitely a valid fear.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's another decision point that we come to, the decision of, do I want to stay in a place where I'm making everyone else happy and people pleasing everyone around me and living a life that's not who I truly am? Or would I rather live my truest self and just let the chips fall where they may?
Right. Well, and reintroduce ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Reintroduce, say, hey, this is who I was. This is who I am now. These are my aspirations. I know you love me. I know you support me in everything. Sure, there's going to be like a couple of growing pains with, wait, I'm not used to, maybe husband says, I'm not used to that, or I didn't expect that, or, whatever it is. But I very much, for me, I always think of my Nana, my mother's mother, who was Italian, the Italian side of the family. She would sing "This Little Light of Mine, I'm Gonna Let It Shine." And I always envisioned like your soul aglow. And I just think when we're people pleasing and constantly giving too much of ourselves without replenishing to a form where we are, to a place, not a form, to a place where we're depleted, that flame starts to diminish. And, for me, that's where I believe we stop glowing from the inside, and we may even find ourselves suffering with dis-ease, like Louise Hay used to speak of, and when that enters the body, oftentimes people become ill. And so for me, it's like this, I guess, as a futurist and a visionary, it's like I see the fast forward effect. So I love what you're speaking to, because I think that's very, very important to give a voice to what that can look like in the future for that person if they choose to continue going along to get along, as you said.
Yeah. And I think our fear often tells us that it's a very either or type fear, right? It's either you people please everybody or your life falls apart. Like, who wants that?
or I think people please or you're selfish.
Right.
And it's like, well, they tell us on the airplane, you have to put your oxygen mask on first. I remember being in 5th grade that summer, going to Germany to see my German side of the family, my Oma and aunts and uncles, cousins, and thinking, wait, I think they said that wrong. Like it was the first time I was old enough to really be paying attention to like think, no, that's selfish. You would never do that, and it really struck a chord and stayed with me. I guess I was 11, 12. But yeah, we think it's black or white, or it's, yin or yang. And I think it's very important to, like you said, have that realization, that understanding.
Yeah, that we can be our honest and true selves with people that we love and the rest of the world, and still have relationships and not, burn our entire life to the ground in order to rebuild it,
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I love this. What else? I mean, there's so many other ways to talk about this, but when you find your clients, let's talk about female clients here. When you find that they confront that fear or communicate with that fear and understand what it is and et cetera, move forward, what shifts do you notice in them, and what shifts do their family and friends and peers at the office, etc.? What comments have you heard?
Yeah, I think the shifts that I see, I'm thinking of a client right now that she has been a very successful business owner for the last 20 years in retail. And she's shifting into becoming a coach for women that are going through life transition, because she's been through a major transition in her life and learned a lot from that. And as she's making this shift, she's had this successful business, she's going to start this new one. And she really had a lot of fear around that, especially as a result of some of the trauma that she's experienced over the last few years. So, we really have done a lot of work in dealing with that fear and talking to that fear and listening to that fear. And as a result, then she takes action, right? And bold action.
Yeah.
And, people in her life are surprised because they're like, whoa, you really are making this thing happen, And so that's been such a thrill. And at the same time, I think it's a progression. It's not like a flipping of the switch, right? This becomes part of our journey.
Yes.
And, even though I've been in business for almost 20 years now, and my own, fear of being seen and my own growing my own confidence and courage is still a daily practice for me. Right.
Yeah.
And it's still something I work with. And so that's kind of the next part of it, I think, is yes, we learn to manage the fear, and then we come up against the, who am I to do this work? The imposter syndrome. Right. And that's kind of the next critic that we have to talk to in our journey, right? It's kind of like Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. Well, and so I do want to get into that, but I'm going to just share very quickly. Some of the things that I even saw was the way people changed their clothing. Like, I like to do color analysis with clients. So show them what colors light them up versus what colors make them say, hey, hon, I don't feel well tonight, or I'm so sick, I can't go to school because I'm wearing a pea green shirt. That makes me look as green as the shirt, But I have even seen clients cut their hair shorter, pull their hair back more often, apply lip gloss, really start looking through their clothing and wearing things that really allow them to be seen versus look like they're covered in, I'm thinking of like a hefty garbage bag. None of my clients come in wearing that, but you know what I mean? Something that is very just plain, bland, and maybe way too big. And all of a sudden they're like, okay, I feel like I can own it. So I love what you shared. But yeah, I think of when they cut their hair, I'm like, yes, it's working,
Yeah, I love that. I haven't really thought of that.
Yeah, I'm not talking like super from, hitting the waistband of their jeans or their belt to like above the shoulder or above the ear. But I'm just saying, I've had a few people, they come to me, I used to wear my hair short, I can't. And I'm like, okay, why can't you? Are you cold? Because I get cold too, but I throw on a scarf, like what's the, I don't know if my husband would let me. I'm like, really? And then, I find people who like, my husband's like, yeah, cut it shorter, and it's a very funny thing. But, when we pull our hair back or allow it to be above the, collarbones, etc., you are being, it does feel naked. I went from my hair down to touching my shoulder to as short as it is now. And I remember I was in 11th grade. I remember feeling very much naked, exposed, like who was really going to come and attack me? I don't know, Dracula, but it did feel very like, oh wait, hold on. I'm missing, 5 pounds of thick, straight hair. At least it felt like 5 pounds, but, so.
Yeah, I love that. I haven't thought about that. I'll have to watch for that in my clients. I think that's a great point.
that'll be a next episode. So we'll come back. We'll do a recap. What else have we visibly seen?
Well,
so,
and that's what I really learned from the event where we met at the eWomen Network Platinum event is that you included so many women there really dressed and showed up in a way that they were willing to be seen and they were willing to stand out. And that was so inspiring to me, having never been to that event before.
Oh, I don't know why. I thought you'd been already. So
no,
that was my second time, Melissa. Because I'm new to eWomen, I joined immediately as platinum because I saw the value and it was exciting to me. It was the level I wanted to be at. All levels are fantastic, but for me, it was the one that aligned with me. Let me say it that way. And the first year I was there, I needed my shoulder replaced, and I was exactly 1 week out of total shoulder replacement. So
oh my gosh.
I did get dressed. I wore my lashes, my lips, did my hair, and wore my, clothing that makes me feel good. But I was in such horrific pain that I remember it was very difficult to speak to people because I was holding back so much tears and just meditating and breathing the whole time to endure the pain without using pain pills, Advil, Tylenol. But so I'm glad that was your first time. Yes. So for me, I started making my own clothing in high school because I never wanted to look like anybody else. I had this thing about me since my mother says when I was 3, I had an argument with her about ugly pajamas. And she told me, no, it's okay, Gina. You can wear them. Nobody's going to see them. And I looked at her and she said, I'll never forget you said, I'm going to see them. It's not about the other people, Mom. It's about me. They are ugly. I am not wearing them. And if you remember, you're younger than I am, but back then those were the flame retardant, beautiful, very attractive pajamas that we slept in. So I can only imagine what they look like. My mom loves frills. She's still a frilly feminine dresser. And I could just imagine how many frills were on the pajamas. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to have nightmares. I can't look like this. But my dad's parents owned hair salons, and his 2 brothers and sister-in-law ended up working in them. My grandmother on my mom's side was a seamstress in the New York City fashion industry. So I have roots in clothing and hair, and for me, clothing, makeup, jewelry, all of these. I love shoes. I was a department store shoe buyer. They are ways for us to get across in those 7 seconds without opening our mouth what we're about. You know what I mean? And I like to have fun. Everything in my life has a story, hopefully a good story. I mean, I've had some horrific stories too, but, I like to buy pieces that remind me of whatever it was, a vacation, or, I also like buying conversation starters. Like I don't think I wore it, but I have a kimono made of soda pop tops. Where Mark took me out for, I think it was Mother's Day, and we went to a brunch, and I didn't understand what the guy said. But he was commenting like, oh, waiter, I think you need to give her a sobriety check. And I'm thinking, they're soda pop tops. And my husband whispers, beer can tops. And I was like, oh, I always think beer comes in a glass bottle,
right.
Like, I'm not a beer drinker. I like wine, but anyway, my husband's like, beer cans. I was like, oh, beer cans. Oh, I get it. That wasn't the comment I was looking for, but
right.
I'll take it. But yeah, no, it's fun. The platinum events are fun because people do, I don't know, you can tell a little more about them by the way they're dressed, or what their intention is, or how they live their life, or what makes them smile, I guess,
Yeah. they're just not afraid to be seen and stand out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I like meeting people. So for me, if I have something on that somebody will come over and say hello, then I'm like, oh, a new friend, you know? So for me, any kind of everything I buy is a conversation starter. So now even my kids and my husband will be like, I think you want to go in this store. And I'm like, oh, why? They're like, look in the window. Oh, yeah, this is my story, you know? And I think it's fun when we can express ourselves in so many different ways, not just with our voice, but with a necklace even, you know, like something. I had a breakfast with somebody new last week that I still didn't get to. Our breakfast was a very extended breakfast because her appointment got canceled and we were having so much fun, but I still didn't get to ask Laura. Her name is Laura and her last name doesn't start with an M, but she had an M, you know, petite, beautiful, elegant little round circle with an engraved M on it that I know I need to ask her the next time I see her, like, tell me the significance of this necklace. You know, what does it stand for? So I think it's another way of, like you were talking about before, being able to have a conversation, being able to learn something fun about you that maybe you normally don't speak about, or, you know, maybe it's something, I don't know, deeper, you know, than just, hey, how are you today? Is your mic working? Like when we started.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that way of connecting, right? Yeah.
So
I know
go ahead.
People won't even wear, you know, conversation pieces like that because of that. It just goes back to that fear of being seen, the fear of standing out, or the fear of someone asking them about something they're wearing, or, you know, like just trying to be completely invisible. And that just breaks my heart.
Yeah. If you're singing to the choir, yes, it does. It does break my heart because it becomes like you're a wallflower. And I think that oftentimes that person has so much to share, you know, especially if they have been the wallflower, they've been taking it all in, and they probably have so much like a wealth or a well of information where it can just overflow into like a waterfall and be something beautiful for not just their home, within their home, but outside in the community as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe we all have that in us, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that's why we're here to take it out of everyone, right? bring it forth, open that well slowly.
Yep. So,
yes. So, who am I to do this work? I love that. Let's speak about that. I know you and I spoke about it on your show a bit, and it's something many people refer to imposter syndrome. I was speaking about this to my husband over the weekend, that, you know, I did some research prior to your show because I was like, okay, I am not technical on this. Let me go do some heavy reading. And, you know, it is a very, to me personally, let's go back. So not it is. For me personally, it's a very, intense is not the word I'm looking for. It is a diagnosis that has many levels and many different subcategories when you really look at it. That I think that what I read was diagnosed in the 70s, something like that, as early as then, or was it the 50s? But anyway, back in 78. I was running around in my jeans with my striped t-shirts on back then. And, you know, I think that we oftentimes wonder, who am I and why do I have, like, I feel like I have a calling. I'm guessing you do. Do you feel the same?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, we question whether, well, it all goes back to, for me at least, feeling good enough, right? Am I good enough? Do I have enough experience? Do I have enough education? Do I have enough this or that? And, you know, who's to say? I mean, yes, if you're a brain surgeon, I want you to have enough education and experience. There's a governing body that tells us that our brain surgeon has all of that. But, most of us aren't brain surgeons, but yet we have been through things and experienced things. And even if we're just a couple of steps ahead of someone coming up, we can be of service to them and help them.
Absolutely.
And have
I
value.
love that. I love that you say that. And I think that so I'm 55 now, 2 5s in a row. It's kind of fun. I have to remind myself of my age. So that's why I say it so often to you listeners who heard me say my age. If you're wondering, it's because I have to remind myself. But I think that sometimes due to our age, when we grew up, the world was smaller in the sense that I had needed a ride to the library to do my research in an encyclopedia, which my kids don't even know what they are. Anyway, now we have all of this information at our fingertips. We have access to people around the world. Someone recently who I was having lunch with through a networking group said something like, "Oh, you interviewed somebody from Ireland on your show. Now you can have an international business." And I started laughing and I said, "I already have an international business." That was an intention, a decision I made when I set out, like you did as well. Like, how do I want to be seen? Where do I want to be seen? And I think that now we have, back when my mom was 22 having me, that wasn't the world for her. It wasn't that easy to get on StreamYard and start filming with somebody in Colorado. You could do that on, what was the show? The Jetsons, right? You were seeing these things thinking, oh, that's so strange, but for us kids, it was so fascinating. Like, wow, you could talk to somebody on a screen and actually see them in real time. Wow. And here we are doing it. And so I think that we have to, for me, the world has changed so quickly and is still changing, sometimes too quickly for me from the tech standpoint, right, that I find myself laughing. But I have to remember, I have to catch up my mindset to match that these things are possible. Being a few steps ahead of 1, 2, 22 people, whatever it is huge, because you can connect with people around the world. You can connect with people around your state. It doesn't have to be, I need clients who live, within a 5-mile radius anymore. Yeah. So I think that is huge that you gave that a voice. It's a big thing when you're ahead of a group of people, no matter how big the size. The experience that you bring, the way you're able to explain and give insight, people pay money to move through shit. I'm going to use that word, to move through shit quicker, right? We very much want instantaneous answers, or to be from here to here. I know I have a lot of people who are tired of the 4-letter F word describing their life, the word fine, and they're ready for extraordinary. Okay, come, let's talk, right? Yeah, and self-worth, let's talk about that a little more, about being good enough and whatever words you want to use.
Yeah, I think it really, for me, it has come from deciding to believe, I believe we're all 100% worthy from, our very beginning. And so, that for me is without question. You are 100% worthy of love. You are 100% worthy of respect and honor and bestowed to you by your creator. On the business value. So if we think about business value and being an entrepreneur and having a business, I believe that every single one of us has something to offer that we can monetize and make money from. And it goes back to, just being a few steps ahead of someone else that is willing to pay for that value that you have, that knowledge and experience that you have. And I think that as women, so often we short sell ourselves. Like we say, oh, well, everybody knows how to make their own clothes. I'm not going to teach people how. Everybody knows. It's so easy. You can just look on YouTube or whatever. But no one is going to offer even if it's advice, usually it's wisdom, offer the wisdom, the experience that you have in the way you have it. Right. So you have the opportunity to create a 1 in a billion business. Your business will be like none other. And I think that is freeing and very powerful. And, if I can get one woman to believe in herself and to believe that she has value to offer the world, my job is done here.
Yeah, it's time to celebrate with your husband and kids who have been cheering you along. No, it's I think, yes, it can be scary and it can be a lot of work at times, but I think when you're using your gifts and your talents in a way that, like you said, nobody else can. And I think the other thing is people connect, right? We use that word already. People see value in certain people. I'm not the right mentor for everybody. And I'm sure you know that for yourself too. There's some people like, they may say, oh, I don't know, Melissa, and I have to think about it. And they're not motivated or moving forward. Yeah. And that's probably okay because like me, we can't help everybody because we do have a spouse and children, and I have 2 dogs, and there are other things I like to do as well during the week. But when you have these abilities and you pull them together and you package them and you allow yourself to be seen in your unique way, whatever that may be. And I'm not advocating everybody cut your hair shorter and wear red lipstick and false lashes, because if you do, then I have to go figure out something else, right? But what is it that, I like to say, what is your style? How do you set yourself apart? What are those gifts? I use several ways to bring that out for people. And I also think that what are you willing to stand up and go to the stake for? And using that word maybe a little, not so intensely, but like loosely, meaning what is it you're ready to go to bat for? For me, it's probably similar to you. It's living that authentic life, living exquisitely aligned and becoming exactly what the world is missing, or exactly what you see missing in the world. You probably see it missing because it's probably the gifts you've been kind of hiding or dimming down, or, not really sharing to everyone. Maybe only a few people know that you have this great, whatever that is, So.
Yeah. And we each get to decide, and it really is incumbent upon us. We have to decide that the gifts that we have are valuable. No one is going to give that distinction to us. No one is going to believe in us more than we believe in ourselves. Right. So
I have an article going out on that. Yes. That is a huge thing. So say that one more time, because I write about that topic, but let's let you say that again, even slower.
for the kids in the back.
Yes. Write notes. This is something you need to write. Yes.
Yeah. That we get to decide that what we have is valuable. What we have to offer, what we want to offer the world, we get to decide that it's valuable. We bestow that upon ourselves, and then we go out and sell everyone else on it, right? Because no one is going to believe in what we're offering more than we will. Right. No one is going to believe in us more than we do, right? So we have to stand up and decide what I have is valuable. This is why I was put on this planet, to bring forth this, this impact, this message, or whatever it is, and decide that's the impact we want to have on the world, and take a stand for ourselves, right?
Yeah. And knowing that you cause that ripple effect, that when you're doing that, you will be rewarded, not just financially, but for me, I'm going to use the word spiritually,
Yeah.
that glowing of that flame that I spoke about before, where you just feel fulfilled and grounded in knowing that you've helped others in whatever way, shape, or form. And I mean, I think of famous singers. I like Celine Dion, Josh Groban. I mean, there's a million others, but I think of the two of them when they have sang together, like that fuels me. And they're singing. I feel like that makes me feel healthier, happier, more vibrant. I can sing along a little off key, but I can sing along, you know what I'm saying? And so all those things, when you are really sharing like they are, their gifts, and then there's this exchange of appreciation, right? I'm willing to pay for a ticket to go see and hear and be in their presence. And I believe that, that's what happens with your clients is they value themselves, they share, and then they're rewarded financially and emotionally or spiritually, however they feel it, or all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you bring up vocal artists, because that's always been something interesting to me to think about. Like, why do I want to pay $200 a ticket or whatever, or, an entire stadium full of people pay over $100, $200 to see Taylor Swift? Like, what is it about the singing of this artist that we line up to pay? What is the value in that? And I really see that it's the value because these artists have really honed the craft and the practice of opening their hearts.
Yes.
Right. And singing from their spirit, singing from their heart. And that is something we all can do in our own way. Right. We can all do that and create value just by practicing opening ourselves up and opening up our hearts and expressing ourselves.
Yeah. And I think they're delivering messages, right? Yeah. Just like an author, just like a singer, even artists who make paintings, etc., photography, they're delivering a message, and whatever that is. And it goes back to the connection that everything's coming full circle, right? In this conversation. Yeah. That's why I always enjoy our time together, because it always comes full circle. But I think there are messages we have, like you were saying earlier, how it breaks your heart. I don't know what words you use, but the idea that it's upsetting when we meet, and I agreed with you the same, somebody who is kind of standing in the background and has something to say, but is not yet ready or not yet found somebody like yourself or me to help them step forward and be in that light and deliver that message, whether it's a song or a video or an article, whatever that might be.
Yeah. Yeah. And, just as you're talking, I'm thinking, one of the reasons why great artists or great authors really touch us is because they help us to not feel so alone and feel seen, right? Because their lyrics make us feel seen, or we can relate to, or their words. So it all goes back to that being seen.
Yes. And it's a topic that I love. It is so close to my heart, always has been. So when you mentioned that before we turned on the cameras to film, that's why I was so excited, Melissa, because it is really, when we allow ourselves to be seen for who we are authentically, it really lights us up, and it really has the power to enhance every experience in our life. And I'm sure you get that compliment all the time, that you're glowing and that people see you and they feel you. And that was one of the reasons why I thought, oh, she would be good on the show. When we were sitting there, I know I was to be paying attention to everything else going on, but I was looking around the room. Who do I want to make sure I connect with to see if they would have an exquisite conversation with me. So, so thank you for saying yes twice. I do know you have an offer, or an invite that I'd love to allow you to share now. And also, please know, I know I asked you to write while Melissa was speaking earlier, but this information she'll share with you now will be in the show notes. So you don't have to feel like you need to pull over the car to get it. You can see it there in the show notes.
Yeah, so I'm on a mission to help women to believe in themselves and to make an impact using their business and to use marketing to get that message out into the world. So I would love to invite anyone to connect with me. Social media is a great place. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I always have free classes, free experiences happening, and a podcast. And so I would love to connect and get to know everybody. So
say the name of the podcast, Melissa.
Oh, yes. My podcast is Doing Business Like a Woman.
I love it so much. Doing business like a woman.
Yes.
And I think it's fun to own that. So I did shuffle the cards before we started, but I'm going to pull a card for you from the Opening to Possibilities deck. And you just tell me when to stop, and then I'll pull the cards apart and you can tell me which card, because I can't see what you're seeing. So, ready?
Okay. Stop.
Okay. So is it the more white one or the more brown one?
I think the white one.
Oh, sorry. Here we go. White one. Wait, hold on. Which one is it? Oh, so hug. And I'm going to send you a hug through the camera because this was so much fun. A hug can connect two souls, heal and mend a broken heart. 3 questions, Melissa. You can choose 1, 2, or all 3. When has a hug melted your heart? What was going on in your life? How do you embrace others in their time of need?
Recently, I've been thinking a lot about receiving and how to be a better receiver of all, especially of love. And I think what really helped me to have my own aha around receiving is it feels like a hug, right? Like when you have an embrace from someone you really love and feel comfortable with. For me, it's my husband. When he embraces me, I can feel that energy of receiving. And so that's just what came to me as you were mentioning hug. Is just like, it's just something great to receive.
It is. Go ahead. Sorry. Was there more?
Nope, that was it.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think that especially for me as a connector during COVID and then the time after COVID, that it just felt like COVID was lingering. And we were wearing masks and not touching people, not shaking hands. It was very, very difficult for me. It was like that flame in my soul was just burning so low because I was missing that connection of being able to shake someone's hand, give them a hug, you know what I mean? And it's so nice that here we are. And I think in most places, people are allowing each other to hug, to receive a hug. And I love that you were saying that is a great aha moment, because receiving is like the name of your business, your podcast, Doing Business Like a Woman. We are here to receive. And so often, like you had mentioned earlier, is overgiving in people pleasing, etc. And it can be difficult. I wasn't going to mention this, but it just came to my head. So I always feel like I open myself up when I film or when I am in front of others. I always sit in meditation and prayer beforehand, kind of like putting on my jewelry to prepare for what should come out. But I was struggling last night. I had agreed to something with somebody I met in person at an event and was supposed to get follow-up information from them. And time had passed. I got busy. She probably did too. And then she came back and said, "Oh, can we change the time of that a little bit I was like, oh, sure, that still works. I'll move this here and we can do it. And I said, by the way, I never got the information of what, kind of I'm responsible for when I appear on your show. And when I received it, it was like, oh, we're going to do this. And then you're going to be responsible for part B. And I thought, oh, that's more than I, like, in my mind had agreed to. Like, this is a big chunk out of my day. This is a lot more information, etc. And I like to over deliver. I'm sure you do too. But I went to bed last night. I was like, you know what? This is not feeling right. I don't think this is aligning, all night, toss, turn. Of course, my husband's sleeping fine. The dog had jumped on the bed, well, the bigger of the two, had jumped on the bed, is snoring, pushing me off the bed. And I'm tossing and turning, clinging for dear life to the little bit of, comfort that's there. And I woke up this morning and I was like, yeah, I think I need to do a little more research into this and then come back and say, hey, it doesn't align with me. But we did talk about people pleasing and receiving and being true to ourselves. So I guess that's why it had to come through now that I needed to share that. But it was so funny because I don't consider myself a people pleaser anymore. I think I definitely was as the oldest child, etc. I think it's something I struggled with, but I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like I lapsed there, like I was caught off guard, like, wait, hold on.
Yeah. So. Well, I feel like we're always, I'm a people pleaser. I say a recovering people pleaser, right? Yes, so it's like, it's never that I'm over it 100%. I'm still recovering but I'm aware.
Clearly I am, because I didn't say anything immediately. I was actually, when this conversation was happening, I had been playing hooky with my husband, who flew home from a business trip. We went out to lunch and ended up going for a long walk. And I knew I had, gotten my work done. So this text was coming while I really wasn't in my business mindset. But then when I got to bed last night, I was thinking about my upcoming week. It was like, this doesn't, maybe in the future, but right now that doesn't feel like it works, Yeah. So anyway, so clearly I too am a recovering people pleaser. Because I've had a lapse as recent as last night, but I redirected and made my decision. I know we talked about decisions earlier. And so it's been so much fun, a great pleasure, always delightful to share the time and the mic with you. And I value your brilliance. I see you, I hear you, and I appreciate everything you always share with us. So thank you again for joining me. I do want to say it was episode, now I forgot, was it 78? Where did I write that? Yes, 78, that we had another conversation where you can hear more. And in that conversation, we talked about just how 9/11 affected you. We talked about, oh gosh, a whole slew of things, how many things we have in common as far as places we've each lived, that maybe we've passed each other beforehand, not in a past life, but in this life, and not knowing each other. And that conversation was also as beautiful. So thank you again, Melissa, for being with me today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This just went so fast. I feel like we just got on the mic.
Yes, we have to do this every few weeks or months because it's always fun and we have things that overlap. And I think it's delightful to hear it in your voice and from your clients, etc., what you see, your eyes versus, not versus, and from mine. So to give people two different perspectives. So thank you again. And if any of the things that we were speaking about today, like making those big decisions to be seen, heard, and valued, are on your heart and so forth, I'd love to also invite you, also in the show notes, you can connect with me to do a discovery call and learn more about how and why to exquisitely align. Till next time, be exquisite.